Hello, everybody. My name is Tafaz Gomkoi, Coach Taf. I'm excited that I am indeed the current Executive Coach of the Year 2021. And I've been doing this for quite a number of years. And that now we can take this coaching journey to be part of the digital transformation agenda that we take to Silicon Valley later on this year in September 2022. Now, I'm very excited because the coaching definition that we'll be using on this trip is one of those definitions that speaks even to the caterpillar. The caterpillar doesn't know that embedded in itself is a butterfly. And so when we think about that analogy, we think about the coaching definition that speaks about unlocking the digital transformation agenda to maximize organizational performance by exposing the executive to learn rather than teach. And that's exactly what we want to do when you join us on this trip to Silicon Valley. We want to bring out the very best in you. And I'll be part of this amazing journey. And I could be the captain, if you would say, who is going to make sure that we're not just going there to see, but to learn. And so that we can be able to implement these things in our businesses. And the coaching model that we'll be using is the neuro linguistic programming coaching model that acknowledges that we know what we know, we receive what we know because there's always an external stimuli. And that external event is what goes through a process of filters, whether it's generalization, distortion, or deletion, which then creates an internal representation, which is very key for us. For us to have vision, strategy, we need to have an internal representation. And that then goes down into a state. It tells us about our motivation, and our motivation is also linked to our physiology, which is linked to our behavior. We know that when we go with you to the Silicon Valley, we will be able to see different ideas of how people do the works that they do, the strategies that they implement. And in so doing, we'll be able to refocus, we'll be able to pursue certain changes, we'll be able to become creative. We come up with the different ideas, controls, which will be embedded in our workflows, the decisions we make, the strategies that we have set in place, the communication that we will send down to our different constituencies and stakeholders in our business. Now, having said that, with this amazing individual who we're going with, who has got all of these things, how do we then coach? We're going to be coaching on a 12-day or 12 sessions. These 12 sessions will start off with understanding what is transformation for you. You see, transformation is moving from one place to another, one state to another. And so we want to know where you currently are today so that when we go to Silicon Valley, we'll be able to define what is it that you need to be interacting with, who do you want to talk to, so that you can enjoy the transformation that you want to go through. But linked to that is another session is going to be understanding how we can convert an experience into a workable plan. It's one thing to experience, it's another to then be able to bring these experiences, cascade them down to your teams, your subordinates, and everybody else who is going to be part of this digital transformation agenda. So we will experience a lot of things, and I know it's going to be absolutely exciting. But beyond that, we're excited that we are now partnering with Telcom, who are 30 years old, who have been building on legacy. And we want to ask that same question of you. What legacy will you leave on your return from Silicon Valley? When we look at your business many years from now, will we be able to see your fingerprint that speaks about the journey that you walked, but more than that, a journey that you also created enough space for other people to succeed, to also to have succession over you, and to take whatever it is that you've set in place to the next level. But change is always difficult. And for that reason, emotional intelligence is something that we're going to be looking at. We want to understand that, yes, we know that emotional intelligence takes note of self awareness, self mastery, self regulation, and so forth. But the question is, when we bring this digital transformation agenda back to Zimbabwe, will people readily accept chances are you find some measure of resistance. So, how can you borrow from the first world the things that they have done from Silicon Valley to say, in terms of change, in times of change as well, what did they do to ensure that they will be able to sustain a good EQ within their organization and even for those who are leading the change? People say, in actual fact, I'm told it's Peter Drucker who says that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so we want to go out there and understand and learn and ask the questions. And I'll be going through each session, we'll have multiple questions that we'll be using. We'll also be using multiple tools and assessments. One of the key aspects of culture is to say, how do our people do the things that we do? Or what the things that we want them to do? And so we want to understand what cultures work best in digital transformation, where your corporate culture is today and where you want it to be. But exciting also is that organizational processes are the things that make sure that the journey of the customer is shortened as much as it can so that the customer can enjoy the services you provide with ease of business. So, how does the Silicon Valley ensure that organizational processes are not only urgent, but are also meeting the needs of the customers at the point of need? And then again, without a doubt, because we're going to be hanging out with different kinds of people, we want to be able to develop and create networks from the team that's coming from Zimbabwe and from the teams that we'll meet when we arrive in the United States of America. How can we collaborate? How can we work together? How can we grow our influence into those kind of markets? And what is it that we can consistently be asking these people we've met in terms of how we can grow ourselves as well as the businesses that we run? So, networking as well as collaborating is going to be something very important. For me, technology is always about leverage. And one of the biggest questions I'm going to be asking our coaching sessions is, now that you are thinking about this technology, how are you going to use this as a lever for what? Is it necessary for you to be able to engage or to consider this particular technology? Because many a time we want to be known to be moving with the times, but other times in line with what we are doing back home. Customer service is something that is very interesting. But the one thing that we can never ignore is that there will always be incidences in whatever service delivery we provide. And our level and rate of responsiveness is important. How does the Silicon Valley become very deliberate about being responsive? How do they ensure that urgency and speed is embedded in everything that they do? And how will you be able to do it when you come back to Zimbabwe? Now, being agile is something that lots of coaches are now talking about. And I'm glad I've joined the choir to say that businesses and individuals ought to be agile. Agility is about speed at which you are going to be moving and changing and responding. And what are the systems that are put in place to do that? How do you know that it is time to change, to be agile, to move fast? All those things we'll be learning, and we'll be able to learn a little bit about artificial intelligence when we're out there in the Silicon Valley. Now, having spent some time with yours truly, Coach Taff, I believe that one of the key things I am going to be doing is to try as much as I can to ensure that when you go back to your organizations, that you lead the coaching culture around the digital transformation agenda. And so for that reason, I am going to equip you with the skills of how best to coach. And I can't wait to be able to share some of the notes, some of the points that I have. But again, lots of questions, lots of coaching to ensure we build that coaching culture. Now, it's one thing to go on a trip, it's another to enjoy ourselves. When we get back, we are going to ensure that we're going to be tracking your progress and the impact of this trip. This is one of many trips that we are going to be going on. And I'm told that the next trip is going to be really exciting. Unfortunately, I cannot share where we'll be. But again, impact is important. What is working? What worked? How are you moving from point A to point B? How are you utilizing the tools we gave you? And here's an example of a tool I'll be using. I'm calling this the digital transformation impact assessment matrix. And basically, what it looks at is what you need to do more, what you need to delete or delay, what you need to automate, and what do you need to inspect or delete or to delegate. And then obviously, we're going to be looking at this in terms of strategy, processes, technology, and people. This is an example of the sort of tools we'll be using when we're out there together. I hope that you can join us on this trip. So, see you in Silicon Valley. This is Coach Taff signing out. God bless and see you soon.